Thank y'all for joining us for another exciting episode of Down Home Dirt. Today we are joined with Christine Thomas with Targeted Business Support. Thank you, Christine, for joining us today. I can't wait to hear all about your adventure.
I'm glad to. So I'm kind of on a new adventure now. I have owned Targeted Business Support for the last 4 years, but I've kind of changed my direction in the last few months. Matter of fact, I haven't even revamped my website, but that's in process. So that will be ready soon. So I used to be a virtual assistant, but now I am transitioning to being a digital marketer and web developer. And there's kind of a weird story behind that, but
Well, feel free to share it if you'd like.
okay. Well, I had a marketing degree, so as a virtual assistant, I ended up with a lot of clients that wanted help with marketing. I guess you talk about what you know. So when they would ask my opinion about something, it always came out, kind of marketing related. And because of that, I ended up with a lot of clients that wanted help with social media and email newsletters and various other digital marketing practices. And then several people started asking me about their websites. And I had actually worked for a company where I evaluated websites for over 5 years to help determine their authority for Google rankings. And so I could give a good opinion. I felt an educated discussion on that. And after I would do that with clients, and they would say, "Well, can you do my website?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm not a web designer." And they would say, "Well, didn't you say you made your website?" And I would say, "Yes, I did, but that doesn't make me a web designer." And eventually I had someone make me cave, I guess. They just said, "Look, I love your website. Would you please, please, please do my website as well?" And the funny thing was, they didn't even really know me. They'd only found me on social media and knew that I had some friends that lived in the same area. And so they obviously knew that I lived in the same area as them. And so after doing that website, then it just so happened that I had several other clients asking me, could you redo my website? Can you do this website for my husband or whatever? And then I actually helped start a church in Clayton, and Clayton Methodist Church, and I created the website for them as well. So finally, I just decided, if I'm getting all this business and I'm not even marketing it, why wouldn't I embrace it? But at the same time, I still didn't feel confident in everything about WordPress websites. So I took a huge course this summer. It was actually a 6-month course, but ended up taking it like 3.5 months so that I could learn everything I wanted to know that I didn't know before.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I'm just sorry. My jaw's dropping because I don't think I could learn anything that quickly. It takes me like 100 years, but totally different learning style, I'm sure. Mine's all explain it to me like I'm two. And then we'll go from there. I had a hard time in school. That's my whole thing. So that's why I'm an entrepreneur. I know that a lot of us have that kind of issue with school. So that's why we end up in this position. But like,
Yes.
let's go back a little bit. Where are you originally from and how'd you end up in Clayton?
I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, so not very far from Clayton, about 2.5 hours. But in between there, I lived in Arkansas for a time period, and then I got back. I had my husband and I met in high school, got married not long after high school. We moved to Arkansas because that's where his family was from, and he had a grandfather he was very close to who was in ill health. And so I actually finished college out there in Little Rock, Arkansas. And then we were like, okay, now what? Where do we really want to live? And we wanted to live in North Carolina because who wouldn't want to live in North Carolina with the beach on one end and the mountains on the other? And we had some friends that lived in Raleigh, and they said, "Hey, come here and stay with us until you get jobs and all that kind of stuff." And so that's what we did. And then we decided to buy a house. We bought it in Clayton.
Same story. I didn't actually live in Clayton. I just bought a house here and was like, that's where I live now. But I was actually in Garner. So, it's close enough. It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
But Clayton had that small town charm and it made you feel like you're part of a community. And that's exactly what I was looking for when I came here. So I understand why people come here. At first, I was like, awesome. It's small. We don't have that much. And then I'm like, no, that's awesome. It's small.
Yeah.
So it was great. So tell me about what was your ready moment that made you like jump into entrepreneurship?
It was probably a kick in the butt from God. I had homeschooled my daughter, and my son was already married, and then came 2020. The year we all talk about. Before COVID and after COVID. So this was during the midst of COVID. I was still homeschooling my daughter, but she was done at that point as far as high school goes. She was in going to taking college classes at the community college, but she was still at home. She was done with the high school, so she didn't really need. I wasn't a homeschool mom anymore, right? And I'd had several part-time jobs whenever I was a homeschool mom, to pay for all the extra stuff you need to pay for kids. And I knew I wanted to do something different. And I had been applying for what I thought I should have, a regular job, right? In quotation marks. And I applied for some jobs because I had been this mom that stayed at home and worked all these little part-time jobs here and there. They didn't consider that work experience. And so I might get one call back from like 100 things I applied for, and then I still wouldn't get the job because they would find, oh, well, you were just staying at home and homeschooling and just working these part-time, jobs here and there. I was a preschool teacher part of the time. I worked for a company, like I said, the company that evaluated websites. I worked for a plumber doing his invoicing and that kind of thing. And I couldn't get a job. So I was like, okay, I need to do something different. And when COVID hit and I was forced to stay at home more, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something with this time. I can't just sit here because I'm not one of those people who can just sit around and watch TV. And so I started researching things. I knew I wanted whatever I was going to do, I was going to create a website for myself. So I took a class first in WordPress. It wasn't a great class, it was very beginner level, but it worked. And then I found a business coach, and she had been a virtual assistant for 10 years. And so I loved her program, and I just decided to sign up. And I did that in COVID and had my business open by October of 2020.
I remember I met you during networking in 2020 and you had just started it. So we kind of started around
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's really great. It's amazing to be in business this long. I mean, we're approaching 5 years. Like
Yeah.
that's hard to think about. Sorry, time just flies and I'm like trying to wrap my head around it. It's hard.
It does.
So tell me about your support system. Like who's your biggest supporter and how has having that support helped you practice success?
I guess my biggest supporter is my husband because, like, when I went to him, I thought it was like a crazy idea. And of course, I had to spend some money. You have to invest when you invest in yourself, essentially, when you're starting a business. And of course, some of that money really belonged to my husband as well. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hire this business coach. It's going to cost this much. And this class I'm going to take is going to cost this much. And he was like, whatever you want to do. He said, I know you'll do it. It's fine. Just do it. And I just kind of looked at it. Well, this God had been kind of telling me, before COVID that I would need to do something else. And during that time, I thought it was get a real job. But then I just realized when things got a little quieter with COVID and had some time to think and everything, I realized that wasn't what he wanted me to do. And so he wanted me to start a business. And so that's what I did.
I feel that same way too. I was like literally called to it. I felt like there was no other option. I had a job at Walmart and I worked there for one whole week and everyone was going absolutely insane, okay? Because it was just at the beginning and there was like no personal protective equipment and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
"You know what? I'm going to take my stimulus check and I'm going to just make whatever work because I can't do this." So I
Yeah.
feel you. I just felt like I can't explain it, but I knew the day that I left that job, I was like, I'm not coming back. I just had that feeling and I haven't. So
Right. Exactly. You make it work.
I talked to another person on the podcast, Melissa Overton, and she talked about your burning bush moment, and that was kind of like my burning bush moment for me. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
do
Yep.
it, let's go. And I was like, oh, I love that. So now I refer to it as
Yes.
that. So, how do you measure success in being an entrepreneur? Like everyone measures it differently. I personally measure it by how I can keep my clients happy. But how do you measure success?
I think I measure success much in the same way you do. I mean, keeping my clients happy, feeling like I'm contributing toward their business success, but also me being happy. Me having my own schedule. I have 2 granddaughters now, and I can take off a day and spend with them and not feel bad about it. I don't have to ask anybody permission to go do something. I get to, and I love all
Right.
the
Get to be
planning and
your own
stuff that
life.
goes into owning a business. Yes.
See, I love that. That's what I love about it too. Cause I've been a single mom since I was 19 and it was not always easy. I used to work a job at Pizza Hut and I'd clean houses during the day. And like, I never saw my kids. And I was like, I don't understand what's the point of life if I'm just literally working all the time. Like, we're not doing anything. So now that I've
Exactly.
gotten away from that, it's nice. It's, oh my God, I didn't even realize life could be like this. I'm going to be honest. It happens. So, where do you see yourself in the future? What are your future plans? Travel the world?
Well, things have definitely changed just over the summer, so you never know what's going to happen. In the future, I'm going to grow this business into a digital marketing agency. I mean, it's going to be, I want to do custom websites for businesses so that they can be found online and have that digital presence that will help their business grow.
Oh, I'm so excited for you and I cannot wait. So hopefully we can have you back on the podcast in like a year so you can catch us up on everything that's going on.
I hope so. Yes.
Be exciting. So what are some of the common challenges that entrepreneurs face and like how can you overcome them when you're starting a new adventure or even transitioning?
I think one of the biggest challenges when you start a business is that self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
like that's somebody else. And the second part of that is putting yourself out there. So it's one thing to say, okay, I think I can do this, and you start setting things up. But then we all know that business owners, I'm sorry, but you have to be out there in the digital world now. You just have to be. And at first, I might put out like little quotes on my social media that didn't have my picture or anything. I didn't want to put my personal life into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I realized once I finally did that and accepted that everybody need to see me, the person behind the business, as well as the people who are working in the business, that's when it really started to mesh and become more successful. Because you are a part of your business. You're the face of your business, whether you're the owner and you have 25 employees or whether you're just a solo entrepreneur. You are the face of the business. So you just kind of have to get over yourself and put yourself out there so that you can succeed in getting your message out across in the digital world, because otherwise you're just another person behind a logo and they don't know who that person is. You can make a logo, but it's not going to help you if you don't have some kind of personal attachment to the business.
I 100% agree with that. I've noticed that with the podcast, that's kind of like my whole thing is that I'm humanizing us as entrepreneurs and I'm like, "Hey, like we're not just a logo, we're not just a website or a service. We're actual people and like here's our story." And I like being able to share that with other people and obviously you see the benefit to doing that too because now people are going to go, "Oh my God, I know you. I'm going to hire you because I found out this and we resonate together." It's all about connections, I think.
And also
So
trust. I mean, I think when you have that personal connection and you know the person, you feel like you know them, you trust them more. You're going to trust their opinion and their knowledge.
absolutely. And I think that's a really big deal, especially nowadays with everything just being, on the internet, I guess I want to say, but just out in the open, you know?
True.
So that's true. So what advice was most impactful to help you make that leap into entrepreneurship?
When I was starting my business, did a lot of networking online, of course, because it was during COVID. And I ran into a lady, and I cannot remember her name. I wish I could give her credit for this, but she said, done is better than perfect.
I like
And
that.
I embrace that because I am a perfectionist, and that totally rocked my world. But she's absolutely right. I mean, it's like right now. I told you straight up, my website is not exactly ready the way I want it to be. It doesn't. It still has virtual assistant on it at this very moment. Hopefully, that'll change this weekend. But it will. You just have to get it out there. You just have to do what you're going to do. And it doesn't have to be everything does not have to be absolutely perfect for you to start. Maybe you want to start a business and you can just start it with a Facebook page. And there's nothing wrong with that. you'll get there eventually, but it's better just go ahead and, take that leap of faith than it is to sit there planning for 5 years and get absolutely everything perfect and not make a dime and not be connecting with people.
No, absolutely. My daughter just started a photography business and she's like learning all of this fun stuff, the logo and making sure her presence is known and all of it. And you're better than I am. I'm gonna be honest, my website's been down for like 8 months right now. I don't have the capacity to do it. So better than me on that. So what advice would you give somebody who's wanting to take that leap into entrepreneurship?
I'm kind of a research freak, so I would still recommend for people to kind of research what they want to do. And not that you still may do some research. You may start in something and end up with something else. I mean, how many people have gotten a college degree and then end up doing something else, But exactly. So it'll help you just have a better idea of what you want to do. And then you can start pursuing it. And another thing I would recommend, and I've told other people this, I'm very glad that I hired a business coach when I started my business, because it's not that I couldn't have eventually figured it out through, looking at, you can Google anything nowadays, but it's not that I couldn't have necessarily figured it out, but she gave me the confidence to do what I wanted to do. And in addition, she helped me with like the business processes that I need on the back end to make myself feel more comfortable and confident.
I need to check into it. You're the second or third person that's told me a business coach is the way to go. So you just have to slip me that number so I can.
Okay, not a problem.
I'm feeling a little bit like a fish out of water because I don't know what I'm doing here some days. And that's okay, because if you don't know, then you can't go and find a business coach. So
exactly
what they say is admitting it's like half the problem or half the battle or something.
Right, exactly.
So we're there. So tell us about what your main marketing strategy is as of right now. Do you do like in-person networking? Do you pay for ads? How do you get the word out?
Right now, like I said, I'm in this transition period. So mainly it's just been connecting with my normal networking groups that I normally connect with in person. I have some that I connect with online as well. And in the next few weeks, I'm going to be putting out more social media about that transition. I've started putting more social media things related to websites that are good tips, but some of that that'll trickle over and change over as well. And then I'll decide if I want to go into anything, as far as paid ads and that kind of thing. Paid ads can be tricky because with Facebook and Instagram, especially, I know that I've seen that if people run ads and then they decide they don't want to run ads for a while, then their engagement goes way, way down because Facebook and Instagram want you to keep paying for ads. So it's a little tricky game you have to play. So I'm not going there yet.
No, and like I just started the podcast page too, and it will give me like these little, indications of like your engagement went down because you didn't post. And I'm like, because I didn't want to post. Like, stop teasing me,
Right.
So I definitely.
But, I mean, they're a business too. You have to consider that they're a business too, so they want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you just have to decide when you're ready to invest.
Absolutely, I agree on that. I just said that was a new feature that was kind of new to me, and I was like, oh, you're telling me, okay. Because I don't know this stuff. That's not my forte, but apparently I need to learn this stuff so I can get more engagement. So what would be like your best networking tip to share with our listeners?
Well, if you're starting a business, I'd say the first lesson that I had from a business coach was to write your 30-second elevator pitch. And so if I know someone who's starting a business, I usually tell them, well, what's your 30-second? And they're like, some people will say, like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, well, if you're going to network with other business owners or people in the community, they're going to ask you, what do you do? And you want to give them an indication of how you're going to solve a problem. So within that 30-second elevator pitch, you not only need to tell what you do, but what problem you solve and who the person is that you're looking for, so that you can solve their problems.
Absolutely. When I first started networking, I didn't know that. And I kind of went in and I was like, I clean and I'm looking for everyone. And it was those like little powwows that we had in the thing that I was like, oh, I really need to know exactly who I'm looking for, what I do, where I serve, and basically answer like all who, what, where, when, and why.
Exactly.
30 seconds. And then that's kind of where the whole Dust of Rhymes thing came in, because then I started making it rhyme, because that way I thought people
Yes.
would remember me, right? So not only do you have to be creative, you have to tell them what you do, and you have to do something that's going to make them go and think of you.
Right. And I would say practice, practice, practice if you're new at it. Because if you get it to where you've got it in your sleep, I would get in the car and say it. I would do it a million times a day until I felt because if you can practice it, then you're going to be confident when you say it.
Yeah, and an entrepreneur I spoke with actually said something very profound. They said, the thing about confidence is that nobody really knows if it's real or fake, so just fake it if you don't have it. And I was just like, that's so true, because you never know whether or not it's real.
I guess so. That's true. Why
And
not play like politicians, right?
exactly. And that's so great. I'm glad that you mentioned all that, because that's one thing I think is really important. I used to get up and read mine, and I could not for the life of me remember it and like do it. But if you were to ask me now, I can't tell you the cleaning one, but I could tell you the podcast one 100%. And I feel like that is also what draws people to want to talk to me, is because I'm not looking at anything, I'm engaging.
Right. Exactly.
So making sure that you're like engaging with your audience, which is again, same thing as Facebook, engage with the audience.
Exactly.
So, well, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you? What's your website address and your socials?
Sure. My website address is Targeted Business Support. So that ends up with 3 S's by the time you get the business and the support there. People sometimes will miss an S, but it's Targeted Business Support. And you can find me on all social media as far as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest at Targeted Business Support as well.
Oh, you got a Pinterest?
Yes, I do. Has
Okay.
tips for business owners.
I see. I'm learning so much. That's why I love doing this podcast, because I never would have thought that. See, Pinterest for me is like, ooh, I'll never build that. you know?
No, it's great for business owners. I mean, especially if you have tips to share. Now, I wouldn't say I get huge amounts of clients from there. Most of my clients come by referral or through LinkedIn, actually, because I mean it's a B2B business, So, but it's a great place to put your tips out there, and why not? It
No,
doesn't take that much more. If you're going to put it somewhere else, might as well put it on there too.
I guess put yourself everywhere. I didn't think about that, because when they Google you, it'll probably come up your Pinterest page too, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Didn't even think about that. All right. Well, I just want to thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us today. And I look forward to talking with you again in the future to find out how all of this went and all of the ups and downs of the transition, because I know that can be a lot and scary sometimes.
Well, it was wonderful talking to you too. I love always connecting with you. And I wish you success in the podcast. This is awesome. I love seeing on social media who's coming up next.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you guys for listening to another amazing episode of Down Home Dirt. Join us again next Tuesday for another exciting episode.